Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with a follow-up interview from Domenic Carosa from Banxa. And he's had a lot of interesting news announcements recently. And I thought it would be great to have him come in and kind of give us an update on what's happening. And not only that, but the state of the crypto markets. And Domenic, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me on the program again, Tim.
All right, so lots happened since the last time we spoke, right? Maybe you could just kind of bring us up to date. Maybe give us a quick overview of what exactly Banxa does, and then take it from there.
Certainly. For the newbies that haven't heard of Banxa before, we are like the PayPal of the crypto industry. We provide fiat on-ramps and off-ramps for the industry. And we basically connected and power global exchanges out there like Binance, OKX, KuCoin, Huobi, and about 100 others. So effectively, we're like the infrastructure of the internet and effectively connecting the physical, digital fiat world with the Bitcoin crypto digital asset world. And in terms of, I guess, the update since we last spoke, we provided a March update. Our March TTV, total transaction volumes, are up to just almost $1 billion for the 9 months to 31st March, and which was 99% year-on-year growth. And there's been a couple of announcements since then, including one with WonderFi, which is a company that Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, is involved in, and then also quite a few good things around the whole NFT space as well, and then local payments, which I'm sure we're going to get into.
Okay, so I'm thinking about Kevin O'Leary for a second here, but I think he was one of the first guys that actually had the same thought that I was having, is that there is a tremendous amount of fraud in the collectibles and art world, right? And any jewelry and all that stuff. And I was thinking a way to ensure, and I know Kevin O'Leary kind of has this same theory, and I don't know if that's what Wonder does, but it's with the NFTs, attaching to NFTs to actual physical products. Is that part of what they do?
So they're actually an exchange and a DeFi platform. And so because they're very much trying to attract more customers all around the world, they're typically being focused on the Canadian marketplace. What Banxa does is give them access to many, many more countries with our fiat on-ramps and our fiat off-ramps, in the US, in Europe, in Australia, Brazil, and then recently Turkey. So we're effectively helping them expand their business. But coming back to your point, what we're really starting to see, and I'm a big believer of the tokenization of pretty much everything. And when you take physical products, and what effectively you'll be able to do in the future is tokenize them into an NFT, a non-fungible token, which effectively what it does, it in a way represents that physical product in the digital world, and in a way confirms that that product is legitimate, and will have certainly details around when it was created, who it was created by, who it was last sold or owned by. Effectively, all of that stuff is on the blockchain, so people can't effectively copy those kinds of things, because they are on the blockchain and they live forever.
Right. So I mean it verifies that is the real deal, right? There's no knockoff, there's no fake there. That's the real deal, right? I mean, that's a great way for insurance companies to be able to comfortably insure something, right? I mean, knowing that is the legitimate product, right?
Yeah, and there's many other companies doing some very interesting things around not only the tokenization of physical assets. I mean, there's a whole opportunity around the tokenization of digital assets, which is what we've seen, but also looking at, and we're starting, I just came back from Consensus, and there was an interesting company there that really was using the blockchain in the meat industry. You may think, what the hell does meat have to do with the blockchain? But what they were doing was basically taking their cattle and putting each of their cattle on the blockchain. And then as it goes through the process to ultimately get onto your plate, you as a customer are able to actually understand the provenance of the bit of meat that you're actually eating. And going all the way back, because there's not only fakes in Prada, there's also fake meat products as well. And that's kind of you could argue it's a silly example, but it's actually a real life example, and that's really the power of the blockchain. It's more than just Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the other coins. It's really the infrastructure that's being created that ultimately provides a indisputable validation that this product is what it says it is.
When you start thinking about that, when you just said that, it kind of made me start thinking about, I mean, even when like produce, when we've had these outbreaks of whatever Ebola or not Ebola, but I know there was in lettuce, we've had issues with certain what do I want to say, parasites or whatever that have come from batches of vegetables somewhere, right? And because of the fertilizer or whatever it is that they're using. I mean, when you start thinking about the ability to track something from start to finish, right? It makes so much sense for blockchain, right? Like to have everything on blockchain, because where, I mean, you can find it very quickly, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, if you take a step back and really look at what Banxa is, we are effectively the bridge between the traditional fiat world or what some people say the real world with the digital asset world. And the digital asset world today is Bitcoin and Ethereum, and now increasingly NFTs. And part of our value proposition is about trying to make that experience really simple. And about a month and a half ago, we announced an ability for customers to go straight from fiat, credit card and US and euros into an NFT with a single click, without having to be a technical genius, without having to know how to use MetaMask and having to deal with Ethereum and gas fees and all the other complicated things that come from it. Effectively, it's a 5 to 7 step process, and we've simplified it into effectively one click. And the reason I bring this up, and I think this is a challenge and hence also an opportunity for all of us in the industry, is to try and really abstract the blockchain, abstract the complexity, and make it really simple for the next billion people that are going to get involved in this ecosystem, in this space. And in my view, when we're really going to be mass market is when people are using the blockchain and using crypto without even knowing that they're using the blockchain and crypto. It all happens behind the scenes, and that's ultimately the magic and the reason why we exist as an organization, and why personally I got involved in the space, because I really just saw the power of the technology.
Right. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? When do you have mass adoption is when you don't even know you're using it, but you're using it, right? And it simplified the process. I mean, when I first looked at the whole crypto space, the wallet and all the stuff that you have to do for that, I know my generation is not going to be going and downloading the wallet. It's just not going to happen, right? But if you can make it so simple that they're using it, like you said, and they don't even know they're using it, that's the secret sauce right there, right? And it makes everything better and more transparent, right?
Exactly. And Banks has really been focused on the cryptocurrency, and there's a slide I think coming up. It's a bit of a graphical slide, but I think it's a bit sort of further
Maybe
up in the deck. And basically, we've been cryptocurrency, stablecoins. It's that slide right there.
Okay.
And what you basically see is that represents $2 to $3 trillion in terms of the market. But where the real big opportunities are in NFTs, in blockchain gaming, and the metaverse, which are actually significantly bigger than just the cryptocurrency space. And the reason why they're bigger and why I believe the next billion people will be more interested in those aspects of what we do, as opposed to just buying and speculating on Bitcoin or Ethereum or some of the other coins, is because there's real utility in it. And so, for example, in the olden days, people would basically play games for pleasure. Now with blockchain gaming, you can not only play games for pleasure, but you can actually earn at the same time. And let me give you sort of a number of examples here, which I actually find is really really fascinating. In the olden days, you'd create, be playing a game, you'd get to the level 10, level 20, you'd have all this extra armor and all those kinds of things. And then that's it. That would be the end of it. There wouldn't be anything else that you could do with regards to that. But with blockchain gaming, what you can do now is that you can actually earn as you play with blockchain gaming. That's the first thing. And then when you've got your armor or your suit or your sword, you can then sell those as an NFT. So each of those things effectively become an NFT, which become tradable and sellable. And in fact, there was a DAO, a company recently that was formed where their whole objective was to buy all of this armor and these swords and all of these things that you would use in games. And then they wouldn't sell it. They would rent it to you as a player. And then you basically rent it for a fee, rent it for some tokens, and then you give it back at the end of the game. So there's just some of the things that you're able to do with the blockchain.
That's pretty interesting, because I mean, I may be old, but I still play games. And I mean, I can see how, I mean, if you think about how many different skins or I have bought, and did I lose you, Dom?
Yep. No, I'm here.
Okay. If I think about how many skins I have wasted money on that were cool when they, came out, but then you just they get kind of old. So you wind up, that skin doesn't get used again forever. Right. I mean, I always have it, but maybe if it was, like you said, much easier just to rent a skin for a couple of days, right? As opposed to buying it. I mean, that's a very interesting concept, right? And that's only doable when you have the ability to do what you're providing, which is the one-click thing, right?
And that's really the essence of Banxa, because we're really about the taking a token and making it available to the mass market without the need of complex wallets, understanding the difference between Solana, Polkadot, Ethereum, Bitcoin, or any of the other coins out there. And that's really the technology that we've built and continuing to build is effectively going to facilitate that. And gaming in itself will be a much larger market than just people buying and selling Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the other coins and effectively speculating or holding because they believe it will go up at some point in time. Not to say that that's bad, but there's going to be much more what they call utility from gaming, from the metaverse, from NFTs.
Which, the metaverse was like the hottest word in tech of 6 months ago. I mean, it was like the hottest word, right? And it's cooled down quite a bit. I mean, we're not hearing about the metaverse every single day. A lot of people saying, "Oh, it was a metaverse bubble and blah blah blah," but there's still, I still think that all that stuff is coming, right? I mean, it's not as fast and furious as it was, but I still believe that whole world is definitely still coming.
Absolutely. And there'll be companies like Meta, Facebook rebranding themselves as Meta. They will create a centralized, centrally controlled metaverse. And then there's going to be all of these, Decentraland, Sandbox, and there's dozens of others which are basically all live on the blockchain. They're decentralized and they're run by and managed by the community. And ultimately, I can tell you who's going to win. It's going to be the one that is run and operated by the people for the people, and really making it, in terms of Banxa, making it really simple to get involved, buy skins, buy extra swords, and then when you want to sell, being able to actually sell them, and sell them not just into a token, but just sell them into fiat money, because I don't believe fiat money is ever going to go away. Fiat money will always exist in some way, shape, or form. I think it's just going to coexist with tokens and the blockchain.
See, now I happen to agree with that, because I think one of the biggest challenges is, as I think about it, is you're not going to be able to go to a completely digital currency, because I think of all the people the poor and the homeless that don't have credit cards, that don't have a bank account, that don't have, and I think to myself that is you're always going to have some kind of a fiat currency, right? I mean, that, because they work out, they're cash, they're 100% cash, right? They're not, they don't have the credit rating to have a credit card, right? I mean, so they don't have sometimes, I mean, this is all sad stuff to say, they don't have a place for you to mail them a bill, right? They're homeless. I mean, or they're transient. I mean, there's just a lot of issues that I think makes it very difficult for there just to be a digital currency, right? Some people don't have computers or mobile phones, right?
Yeah. I think ultimately, if someone has a mobile phone, they can ultimately be their own bank with digital currency. That's really the beauty. You don't need a fixed address. You don't need 20 forms of identification. You can ultimately be your own bank. And I know I'm going to take this a little bit extreme, but just to kind of paint the picture, if people are homeless, and it's obviously a sad state of affairs, and I'm sure there's reasons why they are where they are, but just imagine being able to take homeless people, allowing them to effectively play games, get involved in the whole ecosystem, and then earn tokens, which is effectively pseudo cash, and then convert that into food which they can eat, or shelter to keep them safe. So I think it's actually going to open up a whole bunch of new opportunities to create new revenue streams for people out there, people that are less fortunate than ourselves, but also create many business opportunities for the entrepreneurs out there, effective platforms, platforms not just like Banxa, but there's gaming, NFTs, and and the metaverse. So for me, I actually see this as really spawning a whole new industry. And the other thing about NFTs, which I love, what you can do as part of the smart contract, you can basically add something in a smart contract that says, I create a bit of art. When this art and I sell this art to you, for example, Tim, and when I sell it to you, let's call it for $100, you've then got it. But what I build into the smart contract, that says that when you take that art and you, as Tim, sell it to John or James, I can add something in there that says every time it gets sold, I as the original creator of that art will be able to earn a royalty of 10%. So you then go and sell that for $200. You collect 180, and I, as the original creator, will earn $20, for example. And then when it gets sold again, I'm able to then generate a ongoing revenue stream. So my view is just that technology, that part of the smart contract technology, will, in my view, spawn a renaissance of creativity around content, art, music, film, and things that we haven't even thought of, because there is effectively a new way to monetize creativity. And so,
and for all of those things that are being created, Banxa is the simple solution to make those transactions happen. That's really what it comes down to, right?
At its core, we are taking fiat money and multiple currencies and converting it into a token, because Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFTs, and things that live on the metaverse, or a armor in a blockchain-based game, what is it? It's a token. It lives on the blockchain. So we are really that conduit between the fiat world and the blockchain tokenized world.
Which is just thinking, I mean, we've talked about a few different examples here, but if you really sit down and start thinking about it, it's like, man, the potential opportunity, like you said, we haven't even thought of yet, right? I mean, there's going to be stuff that's going to come out that's going to get, I guess, tokenized, right? That we haven't even thought about yet. It's still very, very, very. I mean, what inning do you feel we're in, Dominic, with this whole blockchain cryptocurrency world?
In terms of the process, and for those that remember the internet days, with the sort of effectively being born in the early 90s, my view is this is like 1995, 1996. We are still so early in the evolution, and companies like Facebook and haven't even been born yet. Amazon was just being born towards the late 90s. So in that respect, we're still so early in the evolution of this ecosystem, which is why I'm so excited about it. And just to kind of throw another couple of examples, just to illustrate the power of the blockchain. There's another blockchain and a network called Helium, which I'm also a big believer in, and Helium has already built over the last 3 to 4 years the largest decentralized network in the world, that basically runs things called IoT, Internet of Things. And maybe for another day we can sort of talk about IoT and go down the Helium rabbit hole. But in effect, what that allows is anyone to host a hotspot and effectively create the network in their suburb or in their particular geographical area, and then earn Helium tokens as part of that. It's like kind of renting part of your house, a little shelf on your window, and earning tokens. And if you want to go that next step, there's a company called FreedomFi that's building on top of the Helium network that allows you as a consumer to actually host your own 5G cell in your house, and effectively give coverage not only to yourself, but those people around you, within, I'm not sure what it means in terms of feet, but let's call it, a couple of 300-400 meters. And you get paid in tokens for doing that.
For being the host of the 5G that's
hotspot.
Pretty smart.
Yeah. So it's ultimately going to create a whole bunch of other new revenue streams for consumers. And, and that's just, one. And, if we had more time, I could go through another 15, 20 different examples of new revenue streams that are being created because of the blockchain. And then, and I mean, obviously, I'm the founder and chair of Banxa, so I've got to refer it back to Banxa. You get a Helium token, you get a FreedomFi token for running your 5G hotspot. Okay, you've got that token, but what you want to do, you want to then convert it into cash, because you need to pay your electricity bill, or you need to pay your mortgage, because those companies haven't yet caught up with accepting tokens for their services. Once again, using the Banxa off-ramps to go from crypto back to fiat money.
Right. That's it right there. It's like, okay, great. I've got all these tokens, but what the hell do I want to do with them? Right. I got to turn it back into cash. Right. So that and that's what you do. All right. So I want to real quickly bring up the fact that you've had a couple of reports put out on you guys recently. You had one from H.C. Wainwright, and you had one from Lake Street, right? Yep. And I think, let me just take a look here.
And Fundamental Research. They're really reports in the last couple of months.
Okay. And I think that what was the, I haven't had a chance to go through this completely, but I think the price target on these, on the stock, was somewhere in the $3 and $4 range, right?
Yeah, between $4 and $6, and we're now trading at about mid ones, mid to low ones,
Right.
in terms of on a Canadian exchange, and just under $1 on the OTC QX.
Okay.
And my view is, a couple of those reports are really on the conservative side. Yeah, and rightly so. I think it's right to be conservative. But like the equity markets today, and like the crypto markets, the whole industry has been, using my Aussie slang, have been smashed over the last month or two, and that's just really the nature of the beast. Once again, I take a long-term view with regards to what we're doing as an organization, and also taking a step back and looking at the ecosystem. At a macro level, long-term, is there growth in this environment, in this ecosystem, in NFTs and metaverse and helium mining and other things that haven't even been created yet? My view is absolutely. Banxa is really the fabric, the infrastructure of this industry.
So you just had an announcement. Was that today that you had the announcement of Turkey?
Yeah, that was yesterday. We announced
yesterday. Okay.
Turkey with local payment methods. Before yesterday, we announced a deal with WonderFi, which is a company that Kevin O'Leary, or some of you may know him as Mr. Wonderful. So we're basically helping them expand into a whole bunch of new countries as well, by plugging in the Banxa fiat on-ramps and fiat off-ramps. And
so if you look at the growth, so when did you guys go? You guys went public, just about a year ago, right?
January 2021, we went public at $1 Canadian, so about 70 US cents a share.
Okay, so that was in 2021, right? And had a nice big pop, and now we're sitting here, and I will tell you, from a technical standpoint, I mean, it's not a pretty chart, but then again, no micro cap to small cap chart looks real pretty right now. That whole space has been getting beat for 14 months, right? This is actually kind of putting in what I would call, this could be a double bottom at this 90 cent level, right? I mean, actually, you kind of, you have this low, it came back down, you get a little bounce off there. That $1 level is psychologically is a huge place for people, right? Once you lose the $1, now you're a penny stock. So there's a battle going on there. The question is, and a lot of that is just uncertainty of the overall markets. It's not Banxa specific. I mean, but let me ask you this, Dom. Between when you first went public and where you are today, is the company stronger than it was in January?
Absolutely. On a PCP basis, we're up hundreds of percent in terms of revenue. The business is doing, from a US dollars perspective, $45-50 million run rate. When we listed, it was a fraction of that. We now have over 100 B2B customers. When we listed, we would have had much less than 50. So in that respect, business-wise, we're in a much stronger position. It's just the market, the stock market hasn't been kind to us. It hasn't been kind, as you mentioned, to a lot of the micro caps and small caps out there. And the crypto market, as I'm sure many viewers would know, has gone through a number of macerations. Bitcoin's now down to just over 20K US. My view is, I think we're going into a crypto winter. Banxa has been through a number of crypto winters. There was one in 2014, one in 2018, 2019, and there was a little blip last year as well. We've seen it all before. There's obviously a high degree of volatility in the space, but once again, I always like to try and take a step back and look at it in the context of, is this industry going to grow? Is there going to be more and more people moving into this space and actually having utility with the blockchain and the industry? And the answer is absolutely yes.
And as you simplify the process, that is what's going to help that adaption happen, right? It's on a wider front. than what has happened in the past. The more simplified it becomes, the easier it is to do, then you're gonna get people that are gonna adapt, right?
Yeah, and the way that I look at this is the first, let's call it the first innings has really been, I call it the early adopters, the finance nerds or the tech nerds such as myself, getting involved because we were fascinated in one way, shape or form. But what we're now starting to see, and this is partly because of NFTs and metaverse and blockchain gaming and other verticals that haven't even been created yet, it's effectively more attractive to the mass market. The challenge with the mass market is that you need to make it really simple. You need to make it 2 or 3 clicks, as opposed to having to deal with private keys and wallets and MetaMask and gas fees and all the complications that come along with that. And once again, that's part of the challenge for the industry and a challenge that Banxa is certainly happy to take on. And so my view is, in terms of the best is yet to come in terms of the growth of the industry. And ultimately, I just see this as being a little blip. Are we going into crypto winter? I think undoubtedly, I think we are for the next 6 to 12 months. I think there's going to be a bit of winter or recession, or frankly, I believe we're actually already in a recession, notwithstanding what the numbers say out there. And that's just good opportunity for companies to regroup, to get really focused on their value proposition, ultimately provide great service to their customers, and the good companies will basically get through to that next phase. I think it's always a good thing in terms of going through these, kind of washes out the men from the boys, as they say.
So look, if you go back to the .com bubble burst, right? Which, I mean, every company that had a .com attached to its name had valuations, and was an amazing, crazy time. But 90% of those companies don't exist anymore because they were just garbage fluff companies. But out of that period came the Amazons, and I mean, there were good companies that came out of that .com bubble, right? And I think that's what's going to happen here is you're going to shrink that field, but the real players, the ones that are going to be here for the long term, those are going to rise to the surface, right? And you're going to identify those, and this is the time. I mean, this is the time when you do the homework and you find the companies that are going to be here for the long run. And I think Banxa is one of those companies, right? So, really quickly on the chart. I mean, and this is just, don't hit me or hate me for just telling you how it is. If you close below this 89-cent area, that's going to be problematic for the stock. You probably get more selling pressure. The problem is then you don't have anything from a historical reference or of data to be able to look at and say, well, this is going to be the next area of support, right? That's the problem. That's why this was such a dramatic fall. Actually, right here, if I can get my mouse to work properly, this fall right here, the reason why this was so dramatic was because you broke this area of support over here, right? Yep. And now there's nothing for anybody to look at and say, well, gee, I think it can find some support here. There's nothing there. So could it be pushed lower? Can it get even? I think it's ridiculously, stupidly valued right now, right? That's my personal view. I'm not telling anybody to buy the stock. I'm telling you to do your research, do your own homework. Definitely put this on your radar. Can it get cheaper? Yes, things can get cheaper. Can stupid get stupider? Absolutely. I mean, that's just part of life. But at some point, I think people will recognize that this has gotten way, way, way overdone, right? And it could present a tremendous opportunity. And you don't have to throw a lot of money at it. I mean, let's face it, it's under $1, right? I mean, you can buy 500 shares of this thing and sit on it. And I think 2 years from now, you're going to be pretty happy, right? I mean, that's my personal view. So, so this is what people are probably worried about right now. Rising interest rate environment, very difficult. This is a very difficult climate for small companies to raise capital, without really diluting the shit out of the shareholders, right? and that's a concern. So is Banxa in a good position in terms of financing? Or are you does it look like Banks is going to have to go out and do a big cap raise? That's probably something that.
As at a couple of key points there. I'm not an expert when it comes to charting, so I'm going to take your advice on that. As of the end of the last reporting period, we had just over $10 million cash in the bank. So relatively strong balance sheet. And and you talk about the share price. I mean, I personally, I wish I wasn't in a blackout, so I could actually go and buy some shares as investors would have seen if they check their SETI reports. I've been an active buyer last year of the stock. I'd love to be able to buy at these kinds of prices, but unfortunately, I'm precluded because we're in a blackout, and obviously, I can't talk about why. Suffice to say, I just wish I could be buying at these kinds of prices. But once again, as we say in the company, head down, bum up. Let's look after the business. Let's look after our customers and our team. And if we do all those things right, the share price will eventually look after itself. And that's my sort of personal view in all of this. The other interesting point, because you were just talking about the market dynamics and really looking forward over the next 4 to 5 years, and you're talking about the .com boom and bust. What I'm actually, in my view, I think we're going to start seeing much more of this, and talking to a number of investor sort of banking friends in the space. They're now starting to tell me that big major blue chips, and because their valuations are down to these sort of smaller companies, they're now starting to open up their checkbooks again, looking for acquisitions in the space. Because like the whole, not just crypto space, but the tech space, even in the microcap space, was overheated. And like with anything, it's a bit of yin and yang, and we're kind of in that yang period. But what it basically means, and what they're telling me is, there may be not so much interest from the smaller end retail market, but the big corporates are now got really strong balance sheets. They've raised money. They've made a lot of money over the last 4 to 5 years. And now this is where they're going to start looking for strategic acquisitions in the space. And my personal view is, I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation in the blockchain crypto space over the next couple of years, as big traditional fintechs, payment service providers, banks effectively start picking off the smaller crypto blockchain players.
So that's actually, it's funny that you brought that up, because that's actually one of the things that I've told my people, is that when we start to see a pickup in mergers and acquisitions, that is when you can start to feel as though maybe this correction that we have had is coming to an end, right? Because things have gotten to valuations where it makes sense. Look, when everything was rocking, companies started thinking, oh, well, we're worth a valuation of 10 times whatever. I mean, they don't have revenues, but in their heads, they've got this number that they think they're worth. This is a reality check for everybody, right? You just got revalued in a quick way. But now things, just like it gets overdone to the upside, it gets overdone to the downside, right? Yeah. So, and that's when, if you're smart, the big corporations that do have the money are looking at gobbling those guys up, right? So I do think that I'm right there with you. Listen, man, I want to thank you for coming in and doing this, giving us the update. Congratulations on the Wonder and Turkey and the other things. You guys continue to execute, right? And I know that people are concerned and scared, and maybe the whole space right now with Bitcoin coming down. You just got to look at who's executing, continues to bring new markets, new opportunities for growth. And that is what you guys are focused on. That's what you're doing, right?
That's it.
You're doing it in a smart, responsible way.
Head down, bum up. We've got a great CEO in Holger Arians, who's, as we like to say, runs the company with German precision, because he's German, and the team's doing a really fantastic job. And the last thing I kind of want to add And sometimes I get calls from shareholders saying, the Bitcoin price has dropped 10%. How is it affecting your business? Is it bad? And it's actually, and what I tell them, it's actually the opposite. We have some of our best days when the Bitcoin price drops 10% because people are buying the dip. That's the sort of paradox in all of this is, down days are actually really good for us. What's good for us is volatility, but we covered that in one of the prior sessions. Mate, thanks very much for having me, and looking forward to coming on in the next couple of months.
Yeah, we'll do it again, Don. Thanks, man. Keep executing, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, hold on a second here. Hey there, all you stock market junkies. Thanks for tuning in to another executive follow-up interview with Domenic Carosa from Banxa, BNXAF. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. Why not give us a share? And while you're at it, how about giving us a follow? Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.